Tree Fairy Scheme. Once upon a time, a friendly and kind little fairy lived in a prosperous kingdom. One day, the king invited the fairy to the palace. The king intended to give her a new task. The fairy also came to a dinner banquet held by the king.
Finally, you come, fairy.
What's wrong, my king? Why am I summoned to the palace?
I have a new task for you, fairy.
New task? What is the task?
I assign you to guard the forbidden forest in the northern region. Make sure the life of the animals there remains safe and peaceful. You also have to take care of all the trees that grow in the forbidden forest.
All right, my king. Understood.
After the conversation ended, the fairy was permitted to go home. The fairy prepared to carry out herself to do the task in the forbidden forest in the kingdom's northern region. She put in all the clothes and supplies that she would use during the trip to the forbidden forest. After everything was ready, the fairy rested. The next day, when the sun began to rise on the eastern horizon, the fairy was ready to carry out her duty to guard the forbidden forest as ordered by the king. She rushed out of her house. The king and the kingdom's people greeted the fairy on the street for a farewell.
Goodbye. Be careful. I hope you can do your job well.
Thank you, my king. I will try to carry out this task as well as possible.
The fairy continued to travel to the forbidden forest in the kingdom's northern region. At noon, the fairy finally arrived at her destination. The animals that inhabited the forbidden forest welcomed her. At the forest's edge, they already knew the news of the fairy's arrival, who would guard the forest where they live. The deer became the first animal to greet the fairy.
Welcome, fairy. We all have been waiting for you just now.
Wow, thank you. I'm so happy to be greeted warmly like this by all of you. Come with us, fairy. We will show you the house that will be your residence.
The fairy followed the animals that inhabited the forbidden forest. They took the fairy to a simple house in the forest. The king deliberately built the house to be her residence. The fairy was amazed looking at the simple house in front of her. Although it was not very luxurious, the house was quite spacious. Two trees with large and sturdy trunks grew shady in the yard. Beautiful flowers also rise in front of yard of the house.
Wow, is this the house where I will live?
That's right, fairy. This house will be your residence.
Since that day, the fairy has lived in the house in the middle of the tree. She would go around the forest every day to make sure the lives of the inhabitants' animals were not disturbed. She also checked every tree that grew in the forest carefully every day. The fairy often lost track of time while checking the trees that grew there. This made the forest inhabitant name her Tree Fairy. One day, one of the inhabitants of the forbidden forest, the deer, who was walking on the edge of the forest, unintentionally heard the conversation of a logger. The logger was talking with a man. They intended to build a toll road that passes through the forbidden forest and cut down the trees in the forest.
This area will be built a toll road. Before building a toll road, we have to clear this forest first.
You're right. We have to cut down the trees in this forest. If so, I will hand over the task of cutting trees to you. Do it faster so we can build the toll soon.
All right, I will cut down the trees in this forest as soon as possible.
The deer overheard the conversation and rushed to meet the fairy at her house. After arriving at her house, it reported the logger's conversation in panic.
Fairy, it's bad.
What happened, dear? Why are you so panicked like that?
It's bad, Fairy. I overheard the loggers' conversation. They will come to cut down the trees in this forest. They will build a toll in this forest. We can't let it happen, Fairy. We must prevent them at all costs.
Yes, you're right, dear. We must protect the tree. Then, I give you a task to gather all animals in this forest right now. Thus, what steps we should take to stop the loggers?
Soon, the deer invited all the forbidden forest inhabitants to gather at the fairy house. Not long later, the animals gathered together.
Why are we gathered here, Fairy? What's going on in this forest? The deer told me that two loggers wanted to cut down the trees in this forest. They want to build tall. I assemble all of you here to discuss what shall we do to stop the loggers.
The animals looked at each other. Then the deer suggested attacking the logger before they began their action.
I have an idea. How about if we all attack the loggers in their house? I know their house.
No, it's too dangerous if we attack them. The loggers must have a rifle. I don't want you to get hurt because the king orders me to protect you. So, what shall we do now, Fairy? Well, tomorrow morning, I will meet the loggers. I will persuade them to cancel their intention to cut down the trees in this forest.
The animals all agreed with the tree fairy's suggestion. So, the next day, the tree fairy met the loggers. The deer told her where they lived. Not long after, the tree fairy arrived at the logger's house. She knocked on the door and one of them came out.
Who are you? What do you want to come to my house?
Hello, I'm pleased to introduce myself. I am a tree fairy. The king assigns me to guard the forbidden forest in the north region.
Oh, so you are the fairy assigned to protect the forest that we will cut down. What do you come for?
I'm just doing my task to protect that forest. I beg you not to cut the trees in the forbidden forest.
Hearing the request of the tree fairy, the logger was silent. Then he laughed out loud.
Ha ha ha! You want me to stop cutting the trees in that forest? Don't be dreaming. I had been planning to cut down the trees in that forest for a long time. and no one could stop it. So now you better go home because I will never cancel my intention to cut down the trees in the forest.
After that, the logger shut and slammed his door hard. The tree fairy went back to her home in the middle of the forest. In the evening, she gathered the animal again in her residence to discuss the result of her meeting with the logger.
How was it, Fairy? How was it? Did you succeed in persuading the logger to stop cutting the trees in this forest?
The tree fairy shook her head languidly.
I am sorry I failed to persuade them. So, how, Fairy? What shall we do now?
As I said, we'd better attack the logger in their homes. Anyway, we can't let them cut down the trees in this forest.
The deer is right, Fairy. Let's attack the loggers at their house.
The tree fairy again refused the animals' suggestion. She won't let the animals get hurt because they insist on attacking the loggers.
No, I won't let you attack the loggers at their house. It's too dangerous. They have a rifle, and you'll get hurt. Don't worry, I got a scheme.
The animals were surprised to hear the fairy's statement. They didn't understand what strategy she meant. Then the fairy explained a process she had planned.
Strategy? What strategy do you mean, Fairy?
Yes, what strategy do you mean?
Apparently, after going away from the logger's house, the tree fairy had stopped by a bee's hive in one of the large trees that grew in the forbidden forest. The tree fairy asked the queen bee for help to prevent the loggers.
Well, I stopped by the queen bee's hive over a big tree at the edge of the forest. The logger will cut the trees at the edge of the forest first. I have asked for queen bee's help to call up the bee troops to sting those loggers. But Fairy, you just said we might not attack the loggers because they can hurt us. But why did you allow the bees to attack them? Yes, I forbid you to attack the loggers because your body is bigger. The loggers will easily hurt you with their weapons, but they can't hurt the bees with a weapon because they're quite small. They are smaller than the bullet they have.
The animals nodded their head after hearing the fairy's explanation. They admit Tree Fairy's scheme was quite brilliant. At last, the time has finally come. The loggers are already prepared with large saws that will be used to cut down trees that grow in the forbidden forest. Meanwhile, the tree fairy and the animals that inhabit the forbidden forest hide behind the bushes not far from there. The tree fairy's prediction was correct. The loggers will first cut a large tree with a beehive on the branch. The queen bee and her troops were already preparing to attack the loggers. When the loggers approached a large tree with a beehive on the branches, the tree fairy suddenly approached the two loggers.
What do you want, little fairy? You cannot stop us from cutting the trees in this forest. Don't you see we have brought this sharp axe?
I came here to give you last warning. Don't ever cut the trees in this forest, or you will suffer the consequence.
We are not afraid of your threat, little fairy. Go now and don't disturb our job.
That's right. Go away, or you will get the consequence as well.
Then the tree fairy walked away from that place. Meanwhile, the loggers began to approach a large tree. The loggers did not realize that on the branch of the tree that they were supposed to cut, a giant beehive with bee troops was ready to attack them with their stings. When one of the loggers began to swing his axe, the queen bee immediately commanded her troops to attack the loggers.
Attack!
The bee troops immediately slid toward the loggers. They stung the loggers mercilessly all over their bodies, on the face, hands, and feet. The loggers tried to dispel the bees that stung them, but it was useless because the number of bee troops was much more than theirs. Since they could not withstand the pain caused by bee stings, the loggers ran away. They tried to run as fast as possible to escape the bee companions who stung them mercilessly. The loggers then stopped their intention to cut down the trees in the forbidden forest. Seeing the loggers go away from that forest, the tree fairy and the animals went out from their heights. They were excited and shouted happily to celebrate their winning. They succeeded in driving away from the people who intended to cut down the trees in the forbidden forest. Since then, the loggers have never returned to the forbidden forest to cut the trees. The inhabitants of the forbidden forest live peacefully ever after with the tree fairy. The twin girls who love to tell lies. Far away in the village, a couple of grandparents lived with their twin grandchildren. Those grandchildren are named Evita and Ervina. They lived in a simple house beside the forest. The grandfather worked as a firewood seeker in the woods every day. Meanwhile, the grandmother, who was getting sick, took care of the small vegetable garden next to their house. Evita and Ervina were two beautiful little girls. They got along really well with each other. But these two girls were very naughty. They often steal fruits and vegetables from their neighbor's garden. In addition, Evita and Ervina constantly fight with other children. Because of their misbehavior, the villagers called Evita and Ervina the troublemakers. One sunny afternoon, Evita and Ervina sneaked into Uncle Benny's garden. The ripe mangoes tempted them in Uncle Benny's garden. Evita and Ervina also intended to steal the mango, but Uncle Benny caught the two girls in the act.
Hey, you troublemakers. What are you doing in my garden? You want to steal my mangoes, don't you?
No, Uncle. We are just looking for butterflies, aren't we, Arvina?
That's right, Uncle. We're looking for butterflies.
Well then, you can enter my garden if you are only looking for butterflies. But watch out if you steal my lovely mango. I will report you to the village chief so that he will punish two of you?
Uncle Benny left Evita and Ervina in his garden immediately. Soon, the two girls laughed out loud. They laughed at Uncle Benny, who was so easy to be fooled.
Uncle Benny is easy to be fooled.
You're right. Let's hurry and get those mangoes before Uncle Benny gets back and catches us.
So, the two twin girls took their ripe mango quickly. After getting enough mangoes, they rushed out of Uncle Benny's garden. That's one of the bad habits of Evita and Ervina. Besides stealing and fighting with other children, Evita and Ervina often tell lies. One day, Evita and Ervina's grandmother was sick and could only lie weakly in bed. Evita and Ervina's grandfather invited the two girls to discuss.
We have to cure Grandma soon.
But how, Grandpa?
Your grandma needs to take an herbal potion with honey. We have to share our tasks. One must go to find honey in the forest, and the other must look after Grandma here.
Then let us go to the forest to look for honey. Grandpa, stay here and look after Grandma.
Grandpa agreed with Ervina's suggestion. The two girls then get ready to go to the forest to look for honey. Evita and Ervina brought a basket to fill up with honey inside. After getting ready, Evita and Ervina went to the forest directly. They walked happily by the path separating the forest. In front of them, there was a pretty big tree. So, they stopped walking. Evita and Ervina saw a beehive filled with honey hanging on the tree branch, which was not too high.
Ervina, look at that. There is a beehive full of honey. It's hanging not too high. We can take it.
Yes, you're right. Let's go and take the honey from that beehive as much as possible.
Those girls approached the beehive full of honey. They got ready to take all of the honey from the beehive. But all of a sudden, a queen bee named Candida stopped Evita and Ervina.
Stop! What do you want?
Evita and Ervina looked at each other. They were confused about what they should reply to. Then Evita whispered to Ervina.
What should we do now? Should we be honest, or do we have to lie as usual?
We can't tell a lie to this queen bee. Let's be honest to her.
Candida, the queen bee, noticed the two girls' reaction. She was irritated that the two girls ignored her.
Hey, you two! Why do you keep silent? Why don't you reply to my question? What do you want to come to this place?
Evita, who was nervous, replied to the question of Queen Bee with a stutter. She was afraid the Queen Bee would get angry and sting her.
We want to take honey from this beehive.
You said you want to take honey from this beehive. Are you dreaming? I am Candida, the queen bee, and I won't let anyone touch my hive, let alone take the honey.
But we desperately need the honey.
I don't care. I don't let anyone take the honey from this beehive. Both of you better stay away from this place right now. Otherwise, I will ask all of my soldiers to sting both of you.
Evita and Ervina looked at each other again. They discussed it again by whispering.
How is it now, Ervina? We have to bring honey for Grandma. If we don't bring it, Grandpa must be angry, and Grandma's condition will worsen.
We'll talk honestly to the queen bee. We tell her that we need the honey to cure Grandma's sickness.
Candida watched the two girls, whispering in front of her again. She warned the two girls to leave and stay away from the beehive.
Hey, you both! Stay away from here! Or I will ask all of my soldiers to sting you!
Evita walked towards Candida, the queen bee. She said they needed the honey to cure their grandma, who was in sick condition.
Queen Bee, please listen to my explanation first. We need the honey to cure our sick grandma. If we couldn't bring back the honey today, Grandpa would be sad and our grandma won't be recovered.
That's right, Queen Bee. We beg you, just for this time only. We need honey today. Just a little bit. Just for our grandma.
Candida, the queen bee, was in deep thought. She seemed to consider the twin girls' request. Before making the decision, Candida also discussed it with other bees.
What do you think? Shall we give the twin girls' grandma a bit of honey?
My queen, I think there is nothing wrong if we give them a little honey. Poor grandmother of the twin girls. After all, we have plenty of honey, and we can produce honey again tomorrow.
You're right. If then, order the other bees to leave this beehive right now, so the twin girls can take the honey freely.
Evita and Ervina were trying to eavesdrop on the bees' discussion, but they can't hear anything. Finally, Candida approached those twin girls again.
Hey, you two. I have discussed this with all of my soldiers, and I have decided to give you honey.
Hearing the words of Candida, Evita and Ervina smiled happily. They are happy because they can finally get honey for their grandmother.
But don't be happy too soon. I have a condition that you must fulfill.
Whatever the conditions, we are ready to fulfill it, Queen Bee.
Well then, the condition is that you can only take half of the honey from this hive. Remember, only half. You will suffer the consequences if you take more than that, even just a drop.
All right, Queen Bee. We will fulfill the conditions you said. We promise only to take half of this hive.
Then I will ask all of my soldiers to leave this hive soon so that you can take the honey freely.
Thank you, Queen Bee. Thank you very much. We will always remember your kindness.
Candida, the queen bee, ordered all bee soldiers to get ready to leave the hive. Before leaving, Candida reminded Evita and Ervina again.
Remember, you can only take half of the honey in this hive. My soldiers and I will wait at the forest edge over there. Both of you must meet me if you're finished. Understand?
All right, Queen Bee, we understand.
After that, Candida and the other bee soldiers left the beehive. Meanwhile, Evita and Ervina rushed to the beehive that the bees had left to take the honey. They began to cut the honey, filled hive, and put it in the container they had brought from home. When she got half of the honey in the container, Evita's naughty thought appeared. She wanted to take all the honey in the beehive.
Hey, Ervina, Let's just take all the honey in this hive.
Are you crazy? The queen bee will tell all her soldiers to sting us if we take all the honey in this hive. After all, we promised her we would only take half of it.
They won't know. We take all of the honey now. When we report to that queen bee, let's tell her that we only take half of it as we promised. After that, we will leave this forest soon before she returns to her hive. When she found the beehive was empty, we had already reached our home. They won't find us. Smart idea, right?
But Evita, we have promised only to take half of it.
Come on, just shut up. Come on, help me get all the honey.
Ervina could not refuse the will of her twin sister. She helped Evita to take all the honey in the beehive. The honey in the beehive was all gone. After finishing, the two girls prepared to go home. They also met the bees waiting at the edge of the forest.
Hey, Queen Bee, are we done?
Did you keep your promise? You only took half of the honey?
Evita and Ervina were in doubt. They looked at each other for a moment, but finally they answered Candida's question.
Yes, Queen Bee. We only took half of it.
Okay then, you must go home immediately to give the honey to your sick grandmother.
Thank you, Queen Bee. We will go back soon.
Evita and Ervina turned back. They were ready to go home, but Queen Bee, Candida, accidentally saw the honey dripping from the container brought by the two twin girls. Candida was suspicious because if the two twin girls had only taken half of the honey in the hive, the honey would not be that much and drip out of the container they were carrying. Candida immediately stopped the twin girls.
Hey, you two! Stop!
Evita and Ervina stopped their footsteps. Their heart was beating very fast. They are afraid the queen bee will know about their lies.
Stop! Both of you must be honest with me. Did you only take half of the honey inside our hive?
Yes, Queen Bee. We only took half.
If you only took half of it, why is there so much honey in the container you brought up? Both of you must be lying!
Evita and Ervina stopped their footsteps. Their heart was beating very fast. They are afraid the queen bee will know about their lies.
We only took a half, Queen Bee. We have to go home quickly. Our grandmother is waiting.
But Candida forbade the two girls. She ordered Evita and Ervina to wait while sending a bee soldier to inspect their hive.
Hey soldier, inspect our hive right now! And both of you, stay here until my soldier comes back. If you're proof that you only took half of the honey in my hive, I will let you go home.
The bee soldier finally carried out Candida, the queen bee's order. He checked their hive and found it was empty without any single drop of honey. He immediately went back to Candida to report.
Report. They lied to us. My queen, they have taken all the honey in our hive and did not leave even a single drop.
After hearing her soldier's report, Candida was furious. Then she ordered all of her bee soldiers to sting both lying twin girls. All of the bee soldiers carried out the orders given by Candida.
We bees have been kind enough to give you honey from our hive, but you betrayed and lied to us! Now accept this punishment! You deserve it!
Evita and Ervina were getting scared. They also started crying because the bee soldiers began to sting their bodies. They finally admitted their mistake and begged for mercy from the bees. The end. The Amity of the Bee and Butterfly. In a beautiful flower garden, there lived a bee that was very eager to find flower nectar. He was also very agile in flying from one flower to another to suck nectar. The bee always wakes up very early to be able to suck more flower nectar than his rival, the butterfly. Besides the bee, a butterfly also loved to suck nectar from flowers in that beautiful garden. Like the bee, the butterfly will also wake up very early to suck more flower nectar. The two will frequently fight if they meet while perching on the same flower.
I found this flower first, so I am the one who can suck the nectar.
No, you can't! This flower grows near my nest, so only I deserve to suck the nectar.
That's the bee and the butterfly. They used to fight every day and scramble for the flowers in the garden. The other animals that inhabit the garden are tired of their fight. So, every time the bee and the butterfly fight, they don't care anymore. On a sunny morning, the bee and butterfly woke up as usual, but both of them didn't seem very excited because the flower in the garden had started to wither and the other flowers had not bloomed yet. There was only one flower that they could still suck the nectar from.
How's this? There's only one flower's nectar that could be sucked. The bee must have sucked the nectar first.
The bee also had the same thinking as the butterfly. He thought the butterfly had sucked the last flower's nectar.
The butterfly must have sucked the last flower's nectar. What shall I do?
They were thinking hard to find a way to suck flower nectar today. Then suddenly, both of them remembered what the deer said a few days ago about a garden where the flowers were almost blooming. The animals in the garden were gathering to celebrate the bonfire party. The deer, an intelligent and wise animal, also came to the event.
I saw a garden where the flowers are almost blooming in the south. In another 3 or 4 days, the flowers there must have bloomed. We all have to go there, because there must be beautiful.
The bee, that remembered the dear words a few days ago, immediately planned to go to the garden, which the deer said.
I have to go to the new garden told by Dia yesterday. The flowers there must have started blooming now. I must hurry and leave now before the butterfly finds the garden.
So the bee rushed out of the hive to look for the flower garden told by the deer. But he didn't know that the butterfly was getting ready to go to the new garden. The two animals flew out of their respective nests immediately. They are in a race against time to be the first animal to reach the new garden told by the deer. But accidentally, The bee and the butterfly met on the way. Both of them finally speed up their flying. After arriving in the garden told by the deer, the bee and the butterfly were silent. The deer was right. The flowers in the garden were already starting to bloom. The bee and butterfly were amazed to see the flowers blooming in the garden.
Wow, this garden is so beautiful. The deer was right. There are so many flowers that have bloomed already. The nectar must be so sweet.
I can't wait to suck the nectar from the flowers in this garden.
The bee and the butterfly looked at each other, then fought over the garden. The butterfly thinks that the flowers in the garden belong to her because she was the first to discover the garden. The butterfly even drove the bee away to find a new garden. But the bee didn't want to lose either. He thought he was the first to discover the garden, so the flowers in the beautiful garden belonged to him.
I am the first to find this garden. Then the flowers in this garden are mine. You must not suck the nectars from the flowers in this garden. Go there and find a new garden. Shoo, shoo.
I can't. This is my garden. I'm the first to discover this garden. You're the one to find a new garden over there.
The bee and butterfly continued to fight until they felt weak because they had not taken breakfast yet. Finally, they decided to make peace for a moment and suck nectar together from the blooming flowers in the garden.
Stop. If we keep fighting like this, we will die of thirst. It's better now we suck the nectar from the flowers here first. After that, we continue to talk about who has the right to own this garden.
Well, I agree. After sucking the flower's nectar, we must return to this place again to discuss who deserves to own this flower garden.
The bee and butterfly finally separated. They flew nimbly to suck the flowers they liked. After they felt full, they returned to the place they had determined.
Hey, butterfly. I think we don't need to fight again to determine who deserves to own this garden. I have an idea. How about if we meet the deer? He is the wisest animal, right? He will determine who deserves to own this garden.
Okay, I agree. But before that, we must promise to accept the decision given by the deer. No one can deny him. What do you think?
Okay, I agree.
So, the bee and butterfly left the garden. They flew to the deer's nest near a large tree at the forest edge. Arriving at the deer's nest, they soon met the deer sunbathing in front of the nest.
Hi bee. Hi butterfly. Where are you going? How come you two come to the forest edge together like this?
We are looking for you, dear.
Looking for me? Why are you looking for me?
Yes, both of us are looking for you. We need your opinion. You are the wisest animal in this forest. We found the garden you told yesterday. And you must help us to determine, the two of us, who deserve to have the new flower garden.
You guys have found the garden? The flowers blooming?
Yes, the flowers have bloomed. That's why we need your help to determine who deserves to own the flowers in the garden.
The deer looked surprised to hear the request of the bee and butterfly. He did not understand why only one animal should own the garden. He thought that the garden was enough for more than one animal to have. So, the deer finally suggested dividing the flower garden into two. One part for the butterfly and the other part for the bee.
Why do you want to have the flower garden entirety? Isn't that flower garden large enough for both of you to have? Why don't you divide the garden into two parts? One part for the butterfly and one part for the bee.
The bee and butterfly looked at each other. They seemed to consider the advice of the deer just now. Secretly, they did not agree with the deer's suggestion, but they pretended to agree.
Okay, I agree with the deer's decision just now.
I also agree with your suggestion, dear. Then, let's go to the flower garden now. You have to follow us too. You determine the boundaries of each of our territories.
So, the bee and butterfly returned to the flower garden. The deer also followed behind them. Arriving at the flower garden, the deer immediately took a dry twig nearby to make a line that divided the flower garden into two parts.
Well, I've made a line divided this flower garden into two equal parts. The left side is for you, bee, and the right side is for you, butterfly. You don't have to fight anymore now.
The bee and butterfly just smiled slightly. They secretly disliked getting only a half part of the flower garden, but they did not dare to reveal it to the deer. Finally, the deer left the garden. The bee and butterfly also returned to their respective nests. At night, the bee looked anxious in the hive. He didn't like the butterfly also got a part of the garden he had found this morning. So, the bee set a plan to destroy the part of the butterfly flower garden so that his enemy could no longer suck the nectar.
Yes, I will destroy the part of the butterfly flower garden, so she cannot suck the nectar. Anyway, I don't want the butterfly to be able to enjoy the flower nectar. The whole garden should be mine. In that case, I'm going to bed now to get up early tomorrow to destroy the butterfly's flowers.
The bee fell asleep immediately, but he did not know the butterfly was also planning the same thing in her nest. The butterfly intended to destroy the part of the bee flower garden so that the enemy could no longer suck the nectar.
Anyway, the bee can't get a drop of nectar from the flowers in the garden, which should be mine entirely. Tomorrow, early morning, I will go to the garden and destroy part of the flowers.
The day has finally changed. Early in the morning, the butterfly and bee were ready with the equipment they would use to destroy the flowers in their opponent's garden. They sneaked into the enemy's garden to kill the flowers there. Because of too excited, the butterfly and bee even forgot to take breakfast. Arriving at butterfly garden, the bee destroyed the flowers immediately. He kicked and sawed off the flower stalks until they broke and the nectar-filled flowers fell to the ground. The bee did it with enthusiasm and singing.
La 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 la, this garden will be mine. Butterflies will never suck flower or nectar anymore. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
Elsewhere, the butterfly has also arrived at the part of the bee garden. She destroyed the flowers that were blooming there. She was so enthusiastic about what she did. She didn't realize that the bee had also damaged her flower garden. After destroying the flowers in the enemy's garden was finished, the bee and butterfly intended to head to both garden parts. But suddenly, both of them were very surprised when they saw their garden had been damaged. The flowers fell on the ground and they could no longer suck the nectar.
Hey, butterfly! What are you doing in my garden? Why did you destroy the flowers in my garden?
You too! Why did you destroy the flowers that were blooming in my garden?
The bee and butterfly were fighting again, but the fight was known by the deer who accidentally passed near them. The deer was surprised to see the beautiful garden had now been destroyed. The flowers fell to the ground and made the garden become not gorgeous anymore.
Stop! Why are both fighting in this early morning? And why has this beautiful garden become like this now?
It's all the bee's fault! He destroyed blooming flowers in my garden!
You are also guilty. You have destroyed the part of my garden.
Stop it! You're both guilty! Now that this garden has been destroyed, what do you want? You can no longer suck nectar from this flower in this garden.
The butterfly and the bee fell silent. They both realized the mistake they had made. They regret that there are no more flowers to suck, even though they haven't had breakfast.
I'm sorry, butterfly. I admit I was wrong.
Me too, bee. I have destroyed the flowers in your garden.
Then the butterfly and bee approached the deer. They would like to ask for the deer advice again.
We had to admit our fault, dear. What shall we do now? What shall we do to get flowers' nectar?
Good. If you had admitted your fault, follow me now. I know a new garden with blooming flowers, but you must promise me you won't destroy that garden anymore.
Okay, dear. We promise. We promise to get along and live together forever.
So the deer, bee, and butterfly left the damaged flower garden. Then they found a new garden with blooming flowers. Finally, the butterfly and the bee are no longer enemies and live in peace forever. The end. Princess Dinia and the Blue Butterfly. Once upon a time, far away in a kingdom, a beautiful princess lived who loved animals so much. The princess is named Dinia. Besides loving animals, Princess Dinia had a very kind heart and was friendly to anyone. Princess Dinia always helped people who needed help. Her parents, the king and queen, also loved her very much. Princess Dinia liked to play in the kingdom garden, grown with colorful flowers. Every day, Princess Dinia would always visit the garden. Princess Dinia would run around the garden, smell the flowers, and play with her best friend, the blue butterfly. The friendship between Princess Dinia and the blue butterfly has been built since Princess Dinia was young. Little Princess Dinia accidentally broke a rose when the blue butterfly was about to suck the nectar. This made the blue butterfly very angry.
Hey, why did you break this rose? Don't you know that I will suck the nectar of this rose? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I accidentally broke this rose. I promise you tomorrow morning I will bring a glass of honey from the palace to replace the nectar from this rose.
The following day, Princess Dinia came back to the flower garden. Princess Dinia promised to bring a glass of honey for the blue butterfly. And since that day, Princess Dinia and the butterfly became inseparable friends. Princess Dinia will visit the flower garden where the blue butterfly lives every day. Or, if Princess Dinia were not feeling well and had to rest in her room, the blue butterfly would come to the palace to visit Princess Dinia. Then they chatted at the window of Princess Dinia's room. On a hot afternoon, Dinia's father visited the flower garden. The king came with his guards to look around the flower garden. The king wanted to displace the flower garden into the farm.
Honestly, this garden is gorgeous. Many colorful flowers grow here. But I still have to displace this garden and turn it into a farm.
The king swept his gaze across the garden grown with colorful flowers. The king did not know that his word had just been heard by one of the flower garden animals. It was the blue butterfly. The blue butterfly felt panic at once.
Oh no! Wow! How come? The king said that this garden would be evicted to a farm. Then what will happen to the other animals and me? Oh no!
The butterfly pondered for a moment. She was thinking about how to stop the king who wanted to displace the flower garden where she lived. She came to an idea.
Aha! I have an idea. I will go to Princess Dinia and ask for her help to persuade the king. Yes, I have to go to the palace right now.
The blue butterfly flew towards the palace. Not long after, the blue butterfly had arrived in front of Princess Dinia's room window. As usual, she would knock 3 times on the window. Not long after, Princess Dinia opened the window. She was surprised to see her friend, the blue butterfly, outside the window.
Hey, blue butterfly, what's wrong? Why did you come to see me on a hot day like this?
I want to ask for a favor, Princess.
Ask for a favor? Come, let's talk in my room.
The blue butterfly entered Princess Dinia's spacious and majestic room. Princess Dinia then sat on her bed and continued her conversation with the blue butterfly.
What kind of help do you need, blue butterfly?
Then the blue butterfly told Princess Dinia about what she had heard just now. She said about the king's plan in the flower garden.
Princess, I accidentally heard the king's conversation in the garden. The king intended to displace the flower garden where I live to be a farm.
What did you say? My father wants to displace the flower garden?
That's right, Princess. That's why I came here.
I need your favor to persuade the king so that he cancels his intentions. I beg of you, please, protect the flower garden, princess. Me and the other animals, we have nowhere to go if the flower garden is being displaced into a farm.
Princess Dinia pondered for a moment. She finally agreed to help the blue butterfly.
Okay, Butterfly, I will help you. I will persuade my father to cancel his intentions.
Thank you, Princess Dinia. You're a kind princess.
The blue butterfly said goodbye to Princess Dinia. It went back home to the flower garden cheerfully. After dinner, Princess Dinia invited the king to chat in the evening.
Father, may I ask something?
Of course you can, my dear daughter.
Is it true that Father will displace the flower garden in the south into a farm?
The king looked surprised to hear the questions from Princess Dinia. The king felt he had not told anyone about the plan yet. Then the king asked, who told Princess Dinia about it?
How did you know the plan, my dear daughter? Father hasn't told anyone about the plan to build the farm.
My friend the blue butterfly told me, Father. I beg you to cancel the plans to displace the flower garden. You know that I have good friendship with the animals in the garden. If Father displaces the garden, where will they live?
The king seemed to be considering the request of his only daughter. The desire to build a farm has been around for a long time. But the king could not refuse the request of his beloved daughter. Hence the king also granted the request of his daughter Dinia. He promised not to displace the flower garden.
Alright, my daughter, I'll still build the farm, but I'll build the farm somewhere else. I promise you that the beautiful flower garden will last forever.
Relieved by the king's promise, Princess Dinia immediately hugged him. She did not forget to thank his father.
Thank you, Father. I love you so much.
Princess Dinia visited the flower garden where the blue butterfly lived the following day. She wanted to tell the happy news to her best friend. Princess Dinia kept calling the blue butterfly.
Butterfly? Butterfly, where are you?
The blue butterfly finally came out from one of the flower stalks growing in the garden. It rushed to Princess Didia's, who kept calling it.
I'm here, Princess. Why are you looking for me?
I have spoken to my father. He had promised me to keep this flower garden and cancel his intention to displace this flower garden into a farm.
Really?
Princess Dinia just nodded her head. This made the blue butterfly excited. The blue butterfly thanked Princess Dinia.
Thank you, Princess. Thank you very much. Again, you saved all the lives of the animal that inhabited this flower garden. Thank you very much.
Since that incident, Princess Dinia's friendship and the blue butterfly have become closer. They always went out together until one day the king fell ill. Princess Dinia spent most of her time accompanying her father, who could only lie down weakly in bed.
I'm sorry, my daughter. You don't have time to play because you keep looking up to me. You can no longer visit your friend in that beautiful flower garden.
It's all right, Father. I'm glad to take care of you.
You're a perfect daughter. No wonder everyone likes to be your friend.
Day by day, the king's health condition was getting worse. The great physician had been invited to the palace, but none of them were able to trade the king. This made Princess Dinia even sadder. On a cold night, Princess Dinia had a dream in her sleep. In the dream, Princess Dinia meets a mysterious person. That person told Princess Dinia that the disease suffered by the king could only be treated using the blue rose potion. So the next day, Princess Dinia told her dream to the king.
Father, last night I dreamed I met someone mysterious. That person said that the blue rose flower potion can only cure father's disease.
Hearing Princess Dinia speaking about her dream, the king summoned all the kingdom's soldiers. Then the king ordered the soldiers to look for the blue rose potion.
I order all of you to look for blue roses. I don't care where it is. You have to find the blue rose and bring it here immediately.
Soon, the kingdom guards began to find blue roses ordered by the king. They looked for it all over the country. They looked to the north, south, east, and even the kingdom's west. But the blue rose was never found. The guards went back with a disappointed feeling.
Forgive us, my king. We have looked for the whole country. We have looked to the south, north, and east. We have even looked to the western region of this kingdom, but we still haven't found the blue rose.
Hearing the kingdom's guards' reports, Princess Dinia could not help but feel sad. She couldn't bear to see her father's condition keep getting weaker. She asked for the king's permit to go to the flower garden for a while to calm her mind.
Father, can I go to the flower garden? I promise it's only for a moment.
Of course you can go. Just go.
Princess Dinia went to the flower garden. She purposely didn't call her best friend, the blue butterfly, because she wanted to be alone and calm down. But apparently, the blue butterfly knew that the Princess Dinia was in the garden. It rushed over to Princess Dinia, who was sitting alone.
What's wrong, Princess? Why you look so miserable?
Soon, Princess Dinia raised her head. She also saw the blue butterfly, her best friend, was in front of her. And then, Princess Dinia told the blue butterfly that the kingdom's guard failed to find the blue roses.
I'm very sad, butterfly. Yesterday, I had a dream that I met a mysterious person. They said that my father could be cured using the blue rose potion. All kingdom guards have been ordered to look for the flower throughout the country, but they can't find the blue rose.
Why don't you ask me, Princess?
Asking you? What do you mean? Do you know where the blue flower is?
The blue butterfly just smiled. She knows where the blue rose that Princess Dinia is looking for. Finally, the blue butterfly told her where the blue rose grows.
Of course I know it, Princess. I know all the flowers all over the country. And for the blue rose, the position is quite difficult for humans to reach. The flower grows on a cliff in the northern region. But don't worry, I'll take the blue rose for you.
Really? Thank you, butterfly. Thank you very much. You're indeed my best friend.
You're very welcome, Princess. Regard this as my gratitude to you, since you have saved this flower garden. Now, you wait here, okay? I will get the blue rose for you soon.
Princess Dinia obeyed the blue butterfly order. She waited patiently in the flower garden. When it was getting late, the blue butterfly finally returned with the blue rose that Princess Dinia had been looking for.
This is the blue rose you've been looking for, Princess. Go home now. It's almost evening, and you need to make a potion from these flowers for the king.
All right, Butterfly. Once again, thank you very much for your help. You are my best friend.
Princess Dinia received the blue rose given by her best friend. Then the princess returned to the kingdom happily. Arriving in the kingdom, soon Princess Dinia made a potion of blue rose. And after the potion was ready, Princess Dinia came to her father's room to give the potion.
Dear father, this is the potion of blue rose. Drink this.
How did you find this blue rose, my daughter? I have sent all the kingdom guards to look for this flower throughout the country, but they couldn't find it.
My best friend, the butterfly, gave it to me, father. Now drink this potion, so the father could recover.
The king drank the blue rose potion given by Princess Dinia. And she was right. The king felt healthy as usual after drinking the blue rose potion. The following day, the healthy king and Princess Dinia visited the flower garden where the blue butterfly lived. The king wanted to thank the blue butterfly.
Thank you, blue butterfly. You are very respectable in the healing process of my illness. If you hadn't given the blue rose to my daughter, I would still be lying weak in my bed right now.
You're welcome, my king. I only repay the kindness of your daughter, Princess Dinia. She has also been very kind to the animals in this flower garden.